In this video, we're going to show you how to install the rear shocks on your Nissan Frontier located underneath the rear of the vehicle. Now up underneath the rear of the vehicle, inside of the frame rail, you're going to find where the shock comes up and meets the strut right here. There's a 17mm nut here, so we want to go ahead and loosen this nut here. So instead of us just kind of putting our socket on there and ripping this off, you don't want to risk, if it's rusty, snapping this off. So we're going to use an inductor tool to go ahead and heat this up, and then we'll use our socket and our ratchet to remove that nut. Now we're going to reuse that nut, so just set that aside somewhere. Now if you follow the shock down, you're going to locate the bottom here attached to the rear axle. 19mm nut, 19mm bolt. We're going to use our impact gun and our wrench, loosen and remove this. Before we completely remove this here, we're going to put our pole jack underneath to support this axle. Our jack underneath and just gently lift up on that rear axle. You can almost see that bolt just loosen up. You can see if I lower it back down, there's tension on it. If we jack it up just a tiny bit, it loosens that. You can pull that bolt right out. Go ahead and slide this off and then work the shock off the upper portion. Go ahead and remove the washer on the top here and go ahead and work that shock off. You might need a pry bar to go ahead and work that rubber bushing off, depending on how old it's been kind of crusted on there maybe. So if you can't get that shock off, you might be able to use a pry bar. Be careful what you pry up against. There we go. Now on the top here, we're going to put some anti-seize compound on here. I'm going to take our shock, line that up and push that on. Put a little dab of anti-seize on those threads there. And then go ahead and get that nut started. I like to thread that on as far as I can by hand. Now on the shock itself, it has this retainer band. We're simply going to just slide that off to the side. We're going to remove it later. We're going to pop that off, and the shock is going to extend down as this is a gas charged unit. And as this lines up, go ahead and grab your bolt. We put a little bit of anti-seize compound on there as well. Go ahead and work that through. And put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads here. Put that nut on. At this point, go ahead and remove that strapping. Dispose of that. Install your washer. And then go ahead and thread that nut on. And thread that down as far as you can. Before we tighten both nuts and bolts on our shock assembly, we're going to use our jack. We're going to raise up our suspension into what we call the neutral ride height. This is basically going to be as if we had the vehicle down on the ground. If you want to, you can actually do this on the ground. You can lower the vehicle down, and then once the weight of the vehicle is on the wheels, you can torque down the nuts and bolts. In our case, on the lift, we're just going to use a pole jack and compress our suspension just to the point where it starts to come off of our lift. And that's it right there. We're going to torque the lower bolt to 148 foot-pounds. Now the reason why we do this here is that if we tighten this with the suspension in the full droop, and then we lower it down, that'll cause our bushings in here to bind and cause premature pressure and wear on these bushings inside. So you want it to be as if it was on the ground. We're going to torque the upper nut to 33 foot-pounds. Now once you have the nuts and bolts torqued, go ahead and remove your jack from underneath the vehicle if that is the way that you chose to do this. And at this point here, you can go ahead and repeat this entire process for the driver's side. And once you've done that, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.